In this video, we are going to go through the process of using Urban Slicer's gluten-free pizza dough mix. Finding a good gluten-free pizza is challenging, especially to those with gluten allergies and those who can't eat gluten. So making a homemade gluten-free pizza is a great option, especially when you have a simple to use mix like Urban Slicer. Anyone who's watched my channels for the past 6 months or so knows that I've been using Urban Slicers just add water ready to use pizza dough mix, and they're great for folks who don't want to take the time to mix their own dough, get their own recipe, and go through all of that hassle. You literally dump the pouch in, add the water, mix it, and you're off and running making pizza. This gluten-free mix has actually just one more step. We're going to add water and olive oil. Let's get on to making the dough. The first step is to empty the package into the mixing bowl. Okay. Step 2 is to add 1 1/4 cups of warm water. Now, I like to add, anytime I'm making dough, I like to sort of add my water as it's mixing so it sort of integrates. And it says to use medium-high speed. And then also, it asks for 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I like to use Grazia, great olive oil. I'll drop that in the link below. So we are now going to mix this on medium-high for 8 minutes. We're about halfway mixing, 4 minutes in, and this isn't in the instructions, but one thing I always like to do when I'm making pizza dough in a KitchenAid type mixer, which doesn't always integrate all the ingredients, is I like to take a spatula and scrape it down the side so all the ingredients are incorporated. You'll also note at this point that it doesn't look exactly like regular pizza dough. It looks like a little bit more sticky paste type thing, and that's because it doesn't have any gluten in it. Rest assured, it will come together to a dough, and it's a little bit different to work with. We'll show you what that looks like after we're done mixing. We've mixed for 8 minutes. Now we want to take the hook out. We'll put that in the sink. And from this point forward, everything we want to do, we want to use some olive oil. We have some parchment paper here. We're going to drizzle some olive oil on the parchment paper, and then we're going to use our hands, and of course clean hands, and we are going to spread it out like this. This is really necessary with gluten-free doughs as they're a little bit more challenging to work with. Let's take the bowl off. We'll show you what that looks like. Sort of like a paste, but it's starting to look like a pizza dough. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit of olive oil on our spatula here. And all I'm doing is sort of bring it into the center of the bowl. Okay. And we're forming a little bit of a ball. And this, let me just lift it out. You don't need to lift it out, but we'll have this dough ball that looks something like that. Okay. And now what we want to do is cut this dough ball in half, because this is enough dough to make 2 pizzas. Okay. So we're going to cut it in half, and you don't need to be too perfect on it. And again, we're going to sort of put it down on the oil. All right. Now we want to take our clean fingers and we want to coat them in olive oil. And then we're just going to start working on the dough. And you can see it works, starting to look more like a pizza dough. And I have to say, this is much easier to work with than the other flours that I've worked with, gluten-free flours. This is coming out just perfect. Normally, they're a little looser, a little less like pizza dough, and a little harder to stretch, especially when you want to go thin. And I really like gluten-free to go nice and thin. And we are going to press this out. Yes, this is actually a pleasure to work with compared to the other flours that I've worked with on this. And this is actually easier to use than regular pizza dough. There's no hand tossing, no stretching. I like a nice little raised edge, so I'm going to form it like that just to kind of keep the sauce and cheese in. And you want to stretch this out to about 13 or 14 inches. This is a 16-inch pan. I'm going to set it on the pan just to make it a little easier to sort of work with. And so we're going to go just a little bit further here. So there we have it. We're all stretched out. Looks like a pizza dough. And what we're going to do next is a little bit more olive oil on top. Okay, and we're going to spread that out. And now we're going to cover it and let it rest at room temperature for 60 to 90 minutes. So let me grab my plastic wrap here, cover it. And there we have it. Let's get on to doing the second ball of dough. I have to say, these look like regular pizza doughs at this point. Next thing we're going to do is, I'm using a baking steel, so I like to preheat my oven for a full hour prior to use. So we're going to do that preheat, and I'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to prep them and bake them. Okay, we let it proof for an hour, and then this is what it looks like after an hour. You can see it's risen a bit. And what we're going to do is go right into the oven, we are at 475, and I'm going to slide this right off onto the baking steel. Okay, there we go. Taking a look, a nice crust. I like to rest anything that I par bake on one of these baking cooling racks, and let it rest for a second, let the moisture escape. Then we're going to sauce and cheese it. All right, since we're using Urban Slicer products here, we might as well stick with the sauce. Really convenient when it's already pre-made, and if you don't like making your own sauce, or if that's intimidating for you, this is a great sauce. Has a ton of flavor to it. It's smooth. A lot of people like a nice smooth sauce like this. So we're going to coat the whole thing. All right, we're just going to make this just a classic cheese pizza here. We'll spread it out. This is a grande whole milk mozzarella I'm using. All right, once that's done, let's take a look at our bottom. Our bottom is pretty close to done already, so the baking steel transfers that heat into it pretty intensely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back on the parchment, and then I'm going to go right on the rack here, and we'll let it bake that way. You can see our red pie is coming along nicely there. Now we're going to make a white pizza here. And now I mixed in a little bit of fontina and a little bit of cheddar just to make it a little more interesting with the cheese blend. Fontina kind of melts this like gooey, has this nice sheen to it. So it's pretty nice cheese for a white. And the mozzarella, of course, is just a classic. Then I'm going to use, I did some onions. So we're going to put some onions on top. And then, of course, you can't just leave it like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Urban Slicer White Pizza Mojo. We'll sprinkle that on. Gives it a nice buttery seasoning flavor. Very aromatic. Take a look at that. If you can only smell that from here. And then, once again, I'm going to just go back on the parchment paper, mostly just in case the cheese melts over the side. I don't want a mess in my oven. And then we're going to go right on the rack. We're going to monitor the bottoms of both of these. For example, let's pull out this one here and see what the bottom looks like. That could use a little bit of time on the steel. So we're going to go and place this down on the steel and let that finish. Our red pizza is all set. Let's take a look at the bottom there. Nice golden brown. See all the way around. Looks like your regular old traditional pizza. Here's the white pizza as it came out.
She said she would have had to measure it if I didn't.
All right, guys, I have to say both of these pizzas look like a regular pizza. Like Got some crunch to it. Try that one. Cut up the white. There you go. I love the smell of that seasoning there. At risk of burning myself, let's try. Has a little crunch to it. It's foldable like a New York slice. Good flavor. Pretty darn good gluten substitute, I have to tell you. The browning on the bottom, it actually has some really nice flavor to it. Now let's try one of these. Going back to back here. Yeah, you can definitely taste the flavor of the crust. Some of them taste like rice or nothing at all, or cardboard, but this eats like a pizza, tastes like a pizza. So we made two beautiful pizzas. They look like pizzas, they taste like pizzas, they act like pizzas. They're pizzas and a great substitute, particularly if you need a gluten-free solution, or if you just want to cut gluten out of your diet or reduce it, this is a great solution. The thing that impressed me most about it, though, is how easy it is to handle, how easy it is to make. A lot of these other mixes are very hard to handle. The average person, you get frustrated, and myself. It sticks to your fingers even if you're using oil or water. This formed really a nice dough that was easy to work with. In fact, easier to stretch than regular pizza dough. So overall, I'm extremely impressed with the product. I really should be because I've tried. I shouldn't be impressed because I should expect this. The rest of the Urban Slicer line is terrific, as I've reviewed in the past. This is no different. So bravo to them on creating a great product, and definitely recommend it.